Hello and welcome to ThisConnect. This is a topic you guys have requested and both of us are extremely fond of too. Today we are talking about touring.
So what's your favorite part?
All of it. The planning, the packing, the leaving, the middle of it, the arriving, the satisfaction of covering a large distance, of things going to plan, the idea that the hotel turned out to be what I thought it would be, then the excitement of waking up at 3 a.m. again tomorrow because I have to leave at 4 a.m. again or something. The whole thing. That's so exciting. What's your favorite part?
If you're talking about touring by car, packing the snack basket.
Bro, you're Nagpurish.
Ladder Haldiram, man. A well-planned snack basket is crucial to a good long drive. It's for efficiency, it's for hygiene, it's for health, everything. Yeah, of course, because you don't know what you might get sometimes. So it's important to have...
But that's the whole point of leaving home.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to get.
So that's backup.
Oh, you're also vegetarian, so your issues are also larger than most other people's. Fair enough.
Also picky.
So how do you do the same thing when you're on a motorcycle? How is it that the snacking and all of this doesn't bug you when you're on the bike?
It depends on where you're going.
Okay,
right?
Give me an example.
So if I'm traveling through Gujarat, I'm not worried at all.
Okay.
Strangely enough, Gujarat dhabas have awesome palak paneer.
Right.
So I'm more than happy to stop wherever and order palak paneer. It's awesome. But honestly, on a motorcycle, if you want to cover distances, I follow the same system, which is, I think, tank to tank. So, which is then whatever you find at the best place possible, and ideally have something in your backpack so you can quickly munch on it and get on.
And for once, this is not the tank he's talking about on the motorcycle. Okay, let's roll this back and let's get a little bit more serious about it because I mean, at some point we have to, right?
Yeah, sure.
Where does the process of planning a tour start for you?
For me? Destination, of course, is important because there has to be a reason why you want to get there.
Sure.
But planning itself becomes about what all you want to see, how much time you want to keep on the way, which is not too common now. But like when we were kids, we used to live in Khopoli, which is between Bombay and Pune. And every summer we would drive down to Nagpur. And man, before we would head off on that journey, the excitement levels used to be through the roof because you'd just be thinking about, and back then roads were completely nonsense. Right. And we'd be doing it in Fiats or Ambassadors. So we'd have 4 punctures along the way. And each one used to be like an adventure. Okay, now we're going to, and all the kids would jump out and say that, okay, we're going to help fix the puncture and all of that. So all of that would be part of the package, but it would be the excitement of where you're going. So back then to go to Nagpur, it used to be a 2-day journey.
So how many kilometers would you be able to do back in the day?
I can't recall exactly because the routes would be different back then. Sure. But I guess maybe you're doing 300, 400 odd kilometers a day, not more than that.
So for all the people who think India's roads aren't getting any better, how difficult is it to do 3 to 500 kilometers in a day in a car or a bike today?
Nothing. I mean, I think you could easily do 400 kilometers in 7-8 hours today.
Yeah, and almost anywhere in this country, I think.
Yeah, easy. I don't think that's a big challenge at all anymore. We could, I mean, we've done like the Pune or Bombay, Chennai route. I mean, that you don't even have to think about it. You just get on and you keep going and you only stop when you need fuel. You don't have to, it's a zero stress journey in that. Practically the entire distance.
Yeah, so I started to solve touring because I was going to the racetrack a lot. And that was a 1,000-kilometer day to Bangalore, now Bengaluru. And I had to figure out how that touring mode worked. As opposed to saying, oh, okay, I'm in, say, Bengaluru. And now to go to the racetrack, and it's 350 kilometers. 350 kilometers, after a 1,000-kilometer day doesn't feel like anything. Second, that's the day that you take the time to see something, stop somewhere, walk around a bit, I don't know, do some tourism kind of thing. But a 1,000-kilometer day is a whole different mindset. And I remember reading advice on touring for long tours. And they said, try to stack up your big days early That's when you're freshest. That's when you'll pull it off. But it also allows you to get to the place where you're going without going through the boring part slowly, as it were. Right? So could you have done Bengaluru in 3 days very comfortably? Yes. But then that's 3 days of your tour lost to a relatively boring or uneventful part.
Correct.
So you figure out how to do that 1,000 kilometer day. And what you said right at the beginning, tank to tank is the way to do it. The more you stop, the more time you consume. So you just figure out a way to keep going. And it's more complicated than it sounds, because it means you have to be drinking enough water so you don't get tired, but not so much water that you want to keep stopping to urinate.
Hey, what about selfies?
What about selfies? I mean, tank to tank. So every selfie would look the same. You'd be at a petrol pump and the same bike and the same guy. And I don't know what the big deal about selfies is. What, you're going to forget that you were there?
So what is your purpose when you go for tours? How important, you're talking about 1,000 kilometer day, which means you're really crunching miles.
That's just a transit day. I'm just trying to get somewhere.
Right.
That may not be the touristy touring mode, where the distance is not important anymore, but the idea of where you are is a lot more important. I increasingly find that I'm so involved with riding the motorcycle that I forget to do tourism. I remember this one day where I was coming up from Agumbe to Goa, which is a relatively short run. And I didn't realize how short the run was because of the average speeds that I was able to carry from practice purely. So I reached Goa like the border at 10 a.m. in the morning.
Oh.
And I was like, I have the full day. I'm not going into Goa now, because the point is not to sit at the beach and chill and have a beer, right? The point is to be on the motorcycle longer. So I stopped on the side of the road and realized that the Dandeli, Anshi and all of those beautiful roads were on my right. So I took I think a 3.5 hour detour, which turned out to be an adventure because of Google Maps. But my point is, I'm out for a holiday with the motorcycle rather than to see a thing. So if I were to go on tour today, let's say Motorinc gives me a little bit of a break and I go for a tour, there would be a whole bunch of days which are purely designed to let me ride a motorcycle. But then at some place that motorcycle will get parked. And I don't know, Innova or something would get hired. And then that express purpose of that is to go, I don't know, see the old church or see the fort or visit a historical place or visit a museum or something like that.
Okay.
But I increasingly am so purist about riding that I'm no longer willing to mix tourism into it on the same day.
Okay.
Because also there is the challenge of, I'm wearing motorcycle boots and walking around everywhere, right? You've seen me in the office wearing motorcycle boots the whole day. And it really gets Akash's goat also. Saying, why don't you change your shoes? But that's how I am, right? So can I walk up a fort staircase to see the fort in motorcycle boots? I can. But can everybody pull that off as easily and have a great time? I think motorcycle gear interrupts you there. Is it safe enough a country where you can leave stuff on the motorcycle and walk off? Even with locked luggage, there'll be something in the back of your mind saying, I don't know if it'll be there when you get back. Helmets especially are large objects, hard to hide. So from that perspective, I delink the two. I say, okay, this is a 10-day thing. I will crunch distance on these 2 days at the beginning and these 2 days at the end. In the middle, I have 5 days where I see nice roads. And then maybe 2 days where I meet people, see a place. And that's how I'd set it up now.
Okay. Since you've done this in a very methodical manner.
What's your chaotic method?
Actually, what I like to do if I have to head out on a trip is to not have an agenda. Because driving or riding in itself is meditative.
Sure.
So I enjoy that process. So it's a question of what mood do you settle into and what do you feel like? So sometimes it's like, okay, so Vanita and I have done this. We were supposed to go to Goa and we were on a motorcycle. We were on the Impulse and my cousins were already there and with luggage and everything. So we headed out from Pune at some time and we were chilling. We were really enjoying the ride. And we got past Nipani and we could have made it to Goa. We said, well, it's okay. It's feeling good. Let's just stay for the night. So we found some random hotel on the way and just spend the night there. I wasn't like this, to be honest. I used to be very like, let's get there and that's the plan. But I've kind of started enjoying doing things a little bit more on the fly. Right. And I did the one on the Busa as well last year, which was really good fun. I think I hadn't done that on the Busa as a just random kind of trip. So that was really good fun. So that's how I think about it. But of course, if you are going someplace, then you will have a more structured approach to it. Yeah. You will be looking at what time you're making, what kind of traffic, and all of that. So, yeah, more easygoing is fun just from a touring standpoint.
I don't think I have that easygoing mode at all. If you worked with me a while now, I don't think you've ever seen me sort of just not do everything in like everything is done in mission mode, right? It needs to be finished and there needs to be a process, right? And I don't think even my touring works like that.
No.
Like with a KTM, I would still imagine that I could go along the road and then at say 3 o'clock in the afternoon decide, say, okay, so where am I going to stay tonight? But with a larger motorcycle, no, you need to know exactly where you need to stay tonight. And to me, I still have that fear of riding in the dark, which is from the days when the roads were terrible, the headlights were terrible, and the combination was just horrible, right? So I still have a hangover of that. So I still feel like I'm okay to leave at 3 a.m. in the morning because there aren't that many people around.
Right.
But I don't want to ride after sunset till 9 o'clock trying to find a hotel. I'd rather want be there at dusk, last. Park the bike, cover it up, and then we're done for the day, right? That means you need to know at least the city that you're going to end up in.
Right.
The larger the city, the more critical that you know what hotel you're going to. The smaller the place, the less critical it is. Smaller the place, will it have space when you show up? And if they don't, then what are you going to do? It's just easier to call ahead and say, hey, listen, I'm going to come at this time. Booking.com, for example, I found that they let you book a hotel without paying any money. Then you can call the hotel and say, I made a booking. I just wanted to confirm parking, space, whatever. And they're usually extraordinarily helpful in that mode because they're basically waiting to receive the payment. And once you've had that conversation, that confidence level is a little bit easier. So that's what I would do.
Okay. As for night driving, riding, I'm on the other end. I love driving and riding at night.
Driving, I'm very happy to do in the night. Okay. Riding,
no,
not so much.
Oh, I enjoy that a lot. And in that, a small tip, a lot of people end up using high beams all the time. If you're on poor, roads that are not lit up. One thing I found that really helps is actually sticking to low beam and managing your pace as per the light throw and what you can see. But when in doubt, just being able to flash, go to high beam and down again, that stark contrast actually pinpoints more objects for you than staying in high beam for a long time because you kind of tend to zone out. So that's one trick that I've used often. And aside from that, even the markings, lots of times you've been on roads which are really dark and you don't know where it's going. So it's like follow the near portion of the road and with the markings, trace with the markings. So that
the reflective markings show you roughly where the road is going.
So you're riding according to what you can see, of course, but that doesn't mean it's a poor pace.
No.
It's just that you are being careful. And if you follow a few of these things, it can be a lot of fun.
No, in fact, I'd add to that. The poor pace idea comes from the fact that you feel like you're going slowly, but you will lose so much time every time you stop that you should just take that off the entire consideration set at all. If you think you've been going slowly for the last 3 hours, if you take 10 minutes off your next stop, you will recover the time that you lost, even if that time that you think you lost is real. If it is real, it's 10 minutes at the lunch stop or dinner stop or whatever, midnight stop. It will recover all of that time.
Correct. Now, okay, we've gotten onto the drive and ride and whatever.
I love the packing part of it. What do you do for packing? What's your trick?
So I think one of the things that I learned early on for motorcycles specifically is to roll up the clothes.
Yeah.
When you roll them up, it's amazing how much you can pack into, a bag. And it's just a lot easier. And one of the other things is to pack, like, let's say t-shirts, you roll them up, stuff them into a bag and pack those in and maybe shorts or whatever else separately. So it's all easy to access. It doesn't become a big mess.
Yeah.
And of course, balancing the weight between the saddlebags. That is one thing that I try to keep track of. Not always perfect, but yeah.
So as usual, I like to do this with more vehemence, right? So I won't just roll up my t-shirts. I looked up ways to roll up the t-shirts. Yeah. So it was good fun because I learned to range roll them, which is a very dense roll.
What the hell does that even mean?
It's technique. You can look it up. But the thing is, if you roll it right, it doesn't crease up. So it's not like when you pull the t-shirt out, it's like a mass of creases. And I learned that you have actually a way to avoid rolling completely. So what you said is you roll up your t-shirts, you put it in a pouch and you stick it in a bag. Fantastic idea. This is what I do. If your pouch is compressible, which means it has an extra zip, you may not need to roll it because what the rolling is doing is taking all the air out and the compression will do it. Better yet, if you can get rolled and compressed, the bags become really small.
We're going to make a tutorial on this, which should be doing a demo of all the 3 ways that he's told us about packing.
But the fun part is that when you start paying attention to packing, what fundamentally changes is not the technique. It changes your approach to it. So when I was doing the messy packing, where I'd just throw stuff in and say, I'll deal with it, you'd come back with 40% of what you packed unused. Right? So then you iterated. But when you started iterating, you started paying attention. When you started paying attention, your technique improved. When your technique improved, suddenly you said, I know that I'm not going to use this 40%. So what's the point of carrying it at all? And so today I will go for the longest of trips with the tiniest of bags. And I think it started with the fact that I bothered to look up how to roll a t-shirt.
I'm on the other end. If I have space, I'll pack. No problem. Which is why when you have to prepare for a tour, when you're going by car, it's like boot space kitna hai? Okay. How many bags can that manage? Okay, 2 hard cases, that's fine. And rest will be soft luggage. We're sorted. Soft luggage will typically have all the stuff that you need quickly, easily, or through the days when you're traveling. And you're sorted. So you don't have to take out the big bags. That's what I'll do. So you don't have to move the heavy stuff on a regular basis. Or better still, like when we went to Ladakh, was like you had a big bag with a lot of stuff in it. And there'd be a smaller bag into which you'd just offload stuff.
The day stuff, as it were. Yeah.
So that, because cars were parked there and we were staying there.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot easier.
Yeah.
So just kind of planning the packing that way can make things easy. Yeah. So yeah, as much as I can.
What tools do you carry?
Tools? Me? Nothing.
How can you carry no
Nothing.
tools? Every comment I've read on the internet says you cannot tour if you don't have tools.
You carry tools?
No. I am superstitious about it. I'm superstitious. I believe that if there are tools on the bike, then at some point, the god of tools will wake up and say, you better use my stuff now, or else this tour is over here.
I'll tell you a story. The first ever time I was going to Ridomania, okay? And so this is the first time I'm doing a... First time? No, not a first time, but first time I was going to Ridomania.
So Pune, Goa.
No, it was from Bombay. I was in Bombay that time. So from Bombay to Goa. So it was all Asif, Veer, Harsh, everybody. And we all had this plan to ride out at 4 a.m. And I had obviously borrowed a bike from Royal Enfield, the Thunderbird 350. And so we started off in the dark and it was cool in the morning. It was a little bit foggy. And once the sun started to come out, I realized I was just following them, right? I didn't know the way. And of course, there was a camera crew along in a Qualis. So way back then, right? So this would be 2007 or something, 2008. Something
So when he said camera crew, I knew this trip was ruined.
So that didn't get in the way of this trip. So anyway, so we got out of Bombay, and at some point the sun came up, and it was like, the mornings that you look forward to, right? There's that light mist hanging in the air. The orange of the sun is just coming on the horizon. You can see it on the side, and you suddenly realize you're outside Bombay because there are fields and they're all glowing orange. You're like, wow, this is the feeling, right? And I got excited. I'm like, wow. And we're traveling in this pack of big bikes. So I started speeding up because everybody else was at a fair pace. I said, chalo, chalo. And then it's a 350cc. So now that I can see the road, we should be doing at least 90, 100 kilometers an hour on this road. So I went, got 80, 90, and then what the hell just happened? So the bike just shut off, and we just got into a village at that point. So I just started it up again and started. I said, okay, cool. So got out of the village, and sure enough, as soon as I got out, it went... The beauty of this moment was, as soon as I stopped, all the others realized, okay, a bike has stopped. They stopped. And when I said my bike has broken down, something's wrong with it, you should have seen the joy on the faces of everybody, because everybody said, what tools do you need? And everybody's saddlebags and opened up, and everybody got out tools. Ye kholenge, wo kholenge. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? And the thing is, we couldn't fix it. That bike had to be trucked back. I got a replacement bike. None of the tools helped. All I had been carrying was a clutch cable. That's all I had. Since then, I've just not... I would choose a machine in which I would not need tools.
And how many times with this philosophy have you ever been stranded on the road at all in the last, 23 years of doing this professionally? Yeah.
Never.
Never. That's absolutely right. So I've more or less followed the same philosophy from the other side. I am superstitious about it. I believe that if there are tools on the bike, then eventually the tools will demand to be used. Right?
They have a life of their own. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of imbuing of personality and character than maybe the tools deserve, but here we are. So I will carry a tire pressure thing, a gauge and a filler. Why? Because, okay, if you go into a remote area and you're running low on air, you will need to inflate the tire to get out of there. That's it.
Sure.
Will I carry spare clutch cables?
Huh.
No. If I think the clutch is going to be an issue, I will replace the clutch cable before I depart.
Right.
Will I carry throttle cables? Same logic.
Yeah.
Will I carry a little bit of oil to top it up? No, it would have been topped up before I left because that's part of the prep. Will I require brake fluid? No, it's just been filled. So I prep the bike to the nines so that everything is fresh.
Right.
And after that, I carry basically nothing.
So with the cars, I think by and large, you really don't have to work at all to take a car that you've been using in the city and take it out on the highway. I think the only thing I would do, and particularly because you would want to start early in the day to beat the city traffic,
is the snack basket.
a little bit more. Tire pressures, clean the windscreen inside and out, top up the wiper washer fluid.
Yeah.
Make sure the spare is okay.
Yeah.
And you're done.
So basically, prepare,
Yeah.
but not for disaster. Prepare for the trip.
No, I wouldn't think so much about it because see, now you're running tubeless tires. So if you end up having an issue where you're having a deflating tire, you have enough time. Once you recognize that, yeah, you're losing pressure, you will have enough time to at least get to somewhere.
Right.
Right? If you have a bad enough situation where you have a complete loss of pressure on a motorcycle, then even a tire repair kit is not going to do much.
Yeah.
So
if it's catastrophic, it's done.
you're done.
Yeah.
So I really don't. In fact, when I went to Goa and that was that lazy trip, I went through a patch of road which I had been told would not be good. I said, sure, whatever. And it was not like, it was like that proper red mud and rocks and all of that. But the point was,
So a Maharashtra highway, basically.
yeah, you could say that. And this goes to that forest, reserve forest, right? So there's nothing around. And I think if I had a puncture repair kit, like you were saying, maybe I would have been a bit more careless.
Yeah, possible. Yeah.
I would have thought that, yeah, okay, fine. But I think just being a little bit more cautious overall. And the Busa suspension, not an issue. The thing would be the tires. And something could go wrong, no matter how much you take care of it.
Sure.
But hey.
But that remains in your toolkit always, right? It's called the RSA. I mean, you call them and they'll take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to get there, which is less time than if you were to sit there and hope that the bike would fix itself.
Fix itself.
Because nobody else is there, right? You're in the middle of the forest.
Man, it's been so long since I changed the clutch cable also. It would take me that long, I think, now.
No, I'm saying a catastrophic clutch cable failure is an unknown if you've just recently replaced it before you left for the tour.
Correct.
Right? Go to the service guy, ask him to replace all the cables. It's not expensive. Ask him to tighten all the major bolts. That's not a big deal. Top up all your fluids and ensure they're fresh. How can anything go wrong?
On this note, because I will think of it, you won't. If you're in a scenario wherein you're saying, hey, my brake pads will be gone in 1,000 kilometers, and you know, those tires look like they've got another 800 kilometers or so on them, you know, and you have a travel itinerary plan, change them. Don't cheap out here. Change them.
There's a gesture our DOP uses that is relevant at this point. If you're thinking whether you should or not, this one. This is the one he uses, right? Yeah, you know, the bike or car should be ready to run. If there is anything that is missing from, and it's not a calculation that says I need it in 7,000 kilometers, but the trip is only 5,000, so I'll change it after. No, do it now. Use the 2,000 kilometers left on whatever this consumable is as your backup. You can use it later.
Exactly. Store it. I mean, it's not such a big problem, yeah.
No.
So store it. Use it later if you're so particular about not wasting it. That's fine. But the idea is when you are covering longer distances, let's say for tires or brakes, they will be used harder, right? So these parts will be under more stress because you'll be traveling longer. There'll be heat build up, even in tires. So if anything has to go wrong, let's say you are running low on tread, then chances of punctures, etc., will be higher. So that's the situation you want to avoid.
Yeah.
So just being a little bit more pragmatic about it and not cheaping out will help.
How do you create content while you're on tour?
You've seen how active I am on social media.
That's not the issue here. You have to understand fundamentally that you cannot tour if you're not creating content. Okay, there was a time when you couldn't tour if nobody was sponsoring you.
Right.
But we've gotten over that.
Yeah.
Okay, there are people there who understand that it is okay to tour on their own money rather than having somebody else spend money. You know, the false causes like the smiling girl child and all of this nonsense, it used to happen in, I'm going to say, the late 2015, 16, 17, 18. We used to get people saying, sir, I need to go to Ladakh for a tour. Who will sponsor me? We have passed that. People are spending their own money. Fair, good. But now they want to recover this money, so they have to create content. So how do you tour and create content? What's the
I guess I don't
methodology?
tour then. Because I have no content to show for it.
We are the most useless when it comes to this part of the conversation. So you don't have a GoPro mounted on your chest, another on your helmet, and one on the side of your helmet, and one on the top of your helmet when you're touring, and one back at you so that you have your own view and a mic and no? What's your setup, man?
I have one sticky on the tank, which I've used once. That's it. It's never been used since then, ever. You asked me last time, what is that, remember?
Yeah.
I never used it. I don't know, because the idea of being on to tour is to disconnect.
But if you don't have anything to show that you were on tour, were you really on tour?
Why are you going on this trip, man?
Why not? No, but I totally agree with you. Yeah. I don't think of it either. Will I have a GoPro somewhere in my bag? Yes. Will I have... I have an RX100, the Sony camera. Will it be there somewhere in my bag? Yes. Is there any chance that they're going to get pulled out with any kind of regularity at all? No. Absolutely not.
The phone's mounted on the bike for navigation or whatever, but for anything more than that,
Yeah.
rarely. It's a distraction. I don't know. I just feel that if it's a good enough place to stop because it's so beautiful,
Yes.
I don't want to stop and take photos. I want to enjoy that moment.
Correct.
I want to just be there, enjoy it, and move on.
Yeah. And I tried. I gave it my best shot.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I tried. See, I don't like body-mounted cameras. I don't like helmet-mounted cameras. I think both of them are stupid at some level or the other, so I would not do it. For filming, for a story where it is on your body for 10 minutes, okay, I made my peace with that. But would I put it like this and then go 10 hours? No chance.
Oh God.
Right? So then I said, okay, the RX100 fits into the pocket of my jacket quite neatly. It's not waterproof, but it fits neatly. So I have access to a reasonably high power camera in my pocket. So I pulled it out and took a photograph and I said, no, it's too clunky. This process is too clunky. Okay, let's put it in the tank bag. No, it's still too clunky. Okay, my phone has a camera. I'll take the phone off and then, it's too clunky. So it takes a lot of work on the sceneries part, on the environments part, on my mental state for me to be able to come to a stop with the pure intention of saying, oh, there's a photograph that needs to be taken.
Himalayan Odyssey. I think that would be 2008 or 9. I'm not sure. That one time, I went berserk on shooting because you know how difficult it was to shoot the Odyssey back then because there were no roads.
No footage. It was very difficult.
Yeah, there were no roads, so the camera vehicle would be way behind.
Yeah.
So I had this whole setup where I could mount one kind of, like the gorilla pods. I could strap one around my arm at the drop of a hat. And I used to have one side mount at the head of on the helmet. You know what happened? Because I was wearing it for extended durations, this side of my neck started hurting because there was so much weight on this side. So guys, if you've been having any trouble with, weird neck aches, it could be because of the cameras that you've got.
The GoPro you've got here, it might actually be the pain in your neck.
So the weird things like this, which is why I just said after a point, it's not worth it, even to just have a sticky acid. I'm not going to use it.
So I travel a lot alone and I have a method to it, but you clearly travel with people in the car and on the motorcycle. How does that change the touring experience?
So I think for touring on a motorcycle, I would typically want it to be a small group, right? Not a large group, 4 people, 5 people at the most.
And these are people you know really well or you're okay with strangers?
No, it has to be people you've ridden with, people you know, people you trust, because stupid stuff can happen very easily. I think the simple rule is: would you be willing to stay back for someone? Would you expect somebody else to stay back for you?
It's such a powerful thing to think about.
If something goes wrong,
Yeah.
right? It's as simple as that. Are you willing to put your life on hold to take care of somebody else?
And put your life in their hands should something happen to you instead.
So it's as simple as that. So on motorcycles, I think that's pretty much it, right? In cars, if it's 2-3 cars going for a trip together, that's
Cars are actually reasonably okay because I think car drivers are better than motorcyclists in very few ways. But one of those ways is that if I can't see that car, you don't automatically assume something has happened.
yeah. And one thing that applies for when traveling, I think it's a very simple device, so to speak, is the stretching chain. Lead rider, sweep rider. You stick to your formation. Doesn't matter how near or how far you are, as long as you can see the guy.
Yeah.
If you don't see the guy behind you,
Slow down. It's such a simple thing, right?
that lets you ride at your own pace, drive at your own pace, how you want. You're in your comfort zone without getting into somebody else's space and how they want to enjoy the trip,
Yeah.
right? But just this simple formula.
When you're in a group like this, do you divide the tools and the first aid kits and all of that between bikes and stuff, or everybody packs their own stuff?
Tools again.
There will always be one tool man in there.
Yeah, there's always one, hopefully. Yeah, I've never bothered. Everybody does. I've not asked anybody to pack in a particular way.
Okay.
It's your ride, it's your drive. Do as you see fit. I think the basic thing would be make sure your bike's fueled, your car's fueled up, it's clean.
Yeah, it's so annoying, when somebody shows up and they're the one guy without any fuel in their bike.
Because if you've taken care of your vehicle, there really isn't much that you will have to do to head out on a journey, right? And unless you're being careless or, I don't know, stupid.
Not much should happen.
Yeah.
How does riding with a pillion change your experience?
With the Pillion, of course, you would be a bit more considerate, I would say.
So better behaved.
Just so that, because there's more weight, right? So, and the person who's not riding has to either be really in sync with you.
Yeah, or they're reacting to everything.
Yeah, which can make it uncomfortable for you.
Sure.
So typically, I don't think you, me, or anybody else doing a long ride would have a Pillion, but we've seen so many people do that, right? Even when we went to Ladakh, couples turning up in the dark of the night in Ladakh
Yeah.
with a Pillion, with nothing more than plastic wrapped around their shoes. It was incredible. So people doing that, I mean, hats off, guys, whoever. I mean, for doing that.
Not just us. Charles Darwin tips his hat.
That was risky.
It was. That's what I just said. Yeah.
I know.
No,
but-
so I've ridden long distances with Pillion a couple of times. Pritish from Powerdrift, he was one of the edit and post guys. He broke his hand the day before one of the IBWs where we were all supposed to be riding together. So he came to see us off, sort of heartbroken, saying, I will not get to ride my bike.
Yeah.
And I was like, your hand is broken, but your spirit is fine. So hop on. And the Ducati takes Pillions easily, right? You set up preload and you're good to go. And so we rode together. And then I realized how afraid he was of the performance of the Ducati. So for the first, 150, 200 kilometers, he was really calm on the Ducati and really smooth with my inputs to make sure that he understood that we were on a powerful motorcycle, but it was not constantly trying to eject him off the back. At some point, he walked up to me and he said, I like it. We can go faster now. And then you turn it up 3%. It's not like you immediately go balls out. You go a little bit faster.
Right.
And we had a great time together because he was a great Pillion. He sat in one place and sort of stayed collected. And the Ducati supported that process. And by pure happen chance, somebody else saw us go by and took a photograph and sent it back to us on Instagram. So there's actually a photograph of me and Pritish on the Ducati heading towards Goa.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So Pillions, I think, are okay. Most people don't bother to adjust their preload and just raise the tire pressure just a small amount. And if you just do that, the motorcycle returns to feeling more or less like how you would ride alone, but a little bit heavier than that. And it makes a much more pleasant experience than a motorcycle that's like this because your Pillion luggage, everything is at the back. And now it won't steer, it won't brake.
Right. And for when you're traveling, be it on a car or a bike, you'll find a sweet spot, right? You'll be tempted to push past the sweet spot, thinking that you'll cover distances better. But the likelihood is that you will end up tiring yourself out more.
You know why? So I was reading about it. You know how I looked up the t-shirt rolling? This is the same thing. So it turns out that the brain consumes the most energy of everything that you do. And in that comfort zone, you reach a place where the instruction set for what's going on is immediately available to the brain. What is coming at the brain in terms of sensory input from the eyes and the ears is very easy for the brain to process. And therefore, the amount of energy being consumed to hold that speed steady and smooth is very, very low. It's not so low that your mind is wandering all over the place. Your concentration is on point, but it is comfortable enough for you to not really spend energy doing that thing. When you raise the pace beyond that, and when you raise the pace, lower the pace below that, in both cases, your brain has to work harder.
Right.
There is the discomfort of going slow and saying, oh man, this is so slow. And there is the anxiousness of, oh my God, I'm going so fast.
Because everything is overclocked in that sense.
So you arrive on the same 8-hour, 9-hour trip, because honestly, on a highway, how much difference can you make? On a 1,000-kilometer trip, a guy who's going very, very quickly and a guy who's going very, very slowly will rarely be separated by even an hour. It's not possible to do it. But the guy who stayed at the pace arrives feeling like, yeah, man, let's go out and let's do stuff.
Right.
And the other two guys will arrive completely spent saying, I just, want to have a couple of cold beers and just like go to bed now.
Weather conditions. If it's raining?
If it's not so cold that you're freezing over or so hot that you're in heat exhaustion, you can ride it.
Another cool one, it happened on our ride to Chennai, and it was monsoonish time. And we were riding and we had clear sections for most of the way, and certain patches were dark, and we did get rain. What do you think we did?
I don't know that this is good advice coming now.
We just rode through. We got wet. We got properly soaking wet. Okay, for 20 minutes, it was coming down like there was no tomorrow. It looked like it was going to be pouring all the way. But the thing is, it will most likely not. So we carried on.
Yeah.
We cleared that, and we continued riding. And guess what happened in half an hour? We were dry again.
Yeah. No, so the fun part about really long roads, especially where the horizon is really far away, is you can see weather coming.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that experience. Like where you say, oh, when I remember you come down into Belgaum and you come down the hill, right? If Belgaum has weather, you can see it like 30 kilometers out.
That landscape is beautiful.
Yeah. And you can see the fact that you're heading into rain and you can decide what you want to do. In most cases, if it is reasonably warm, the rain I will not even slow down much for. You'll get wet and then you'll be dry and you'll have had a great time. Yeah. And it's fine. The trick here is don't wear cotton on the bike. What you're worried about right now, oh my God, I'm going to get wet and it's going to get so comfortable. It's the cotton that is uncomfortable. Switch to base layers, which are synthetics, and they dry a heck of a lot faster.
Right.
What I wouldn't want to get wet in is cold places or places where the temperature variation is quite high. So in Ladakh, I would definitely prep not to get wet.
Correct.
And the reason is because when you get cold, you lose body temperature a lot faster than you will get dry again. And Ladakh is not a place where you find heat easily on a cold day.
Right. In Ladakh, in fact, if it's clouded over, you'll feel cold. If it's not cloudy, the sun's coming down, you'll feel nice and toasty.
Yeah.
Typically in the months that you do end up going in.
So what's your solution for waterproofing? What do you do?
What I've realized over time is most of the stuff isn't really waterproof. It's water resistant at best, especially in our kind of conditions.
Yeah.
If it's coming down, some of the gear has been pretty solid. But the thing is, waterproofing lasts for a particular period of time. Right?
Such a key concept this is, right? A tissue paper is waterproof, but for a quarter of a second. Right? And a house is waterproof for about 125 years, give or take. And somewhere in the middle is motorcycle gear, right? So I remember riding with Anand somewhere. It was a big group and we both got a little bit wet and we were both wearing Gore-Tex lines and all. And he's like, you know how it is. Gore-Tex works in European light, consistent rain. You get one shower, Gore-Tex will be wet. But it's okay because you'll also dry very rapidly with Gore-Tex, and Gore-Tex manages color temperature variations actually quite well.
All right.
See how much I'm thinking about video? I said color and I said temperature instead. So it changes in that sense. But you know what my go-to method for most things? Buy the cheap Decathlon style.
Oh yeah.
Put it on top. If you use it well, it'll last a couple of
Works
years.
like a charm.
If you use it well, it'll last a couple of years. If you rough use it, it'll last a season. And it's wasteful because it's not environmental friendly and all of that, but it's $300, $500.
The strange thing is that they are pretty robust.
Yeah.
I've not had them failing on me, you know?
No, I'm saying, look, for example, they're taped seams. Taped seams and boots as you're trying to pull it over, not friendly.
Okay. Yeah.
So I do the plastic bag trick, which I told you, right? You put one plastic bag in a pocket, pull it out, put your shoe over. That protects the seam and protects the filth both from getting connected to each other. It works really well. But if you don't do that and you sort of pull it up, you are wearing the seam out. And once the seam goes, it's no longer really waterproof. It'll still be windproof. It's no longer really waterproof.
All right.
In what conditions would you say, oh, you wake up, you have a touring plan, and you say, no, today is not worth riding?
Wow. If extreme scenarios, let's say you've been doing this for a few days.
Including exhaustion.
That's exactly it. If you're not feeling up to it, skip, delay, whatever, until you find the right mind state. Because at the end of it, if you are doing it for yourself and rejuvenation, then give yourself that time, right? Or choose a pace at which you'd be comfortable to give yourself that space to say that, you know, I'm not 100%, right? Just step back. Not ride at all or not drive at all. You would have to be properly tired, and in which case, for sure.
And remember, at this point, if you reach this point, nothing is more critical than your rest, including the leave that you're about to run out of. Because what happens when you run out of leave in that situation, you find your boss is a lot more considerate than you thought, most likely. Worst case, they'll cut 1 day's pay. I think it's worth losing that 1 day's pay just to rest it out, be comfortable, and do it well the next time around.
Correct.
Right. So to me, exhaustion, extreme events, extreme weather, even extreme traffic. Like remember the monsoons a couple of years ago? They opened that dam before Kolhapur, and then the road was flooded.
Right.
It's an extreme situation, and there is no real way around it because that's like the main highway.
So same thing, like when we went to Ladakh, right, for reboot, and the passes were shut.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Right. And we lost a day. We had the option of extending our stay into Sarchu and all those things. But we realized then that it was taking a toll on all of us. So we did what we could and we came back. We didn't extend it and push ourselves physically.
Correct.
Because that could have just ended up taking a lot more time than we would have wanted. So that's fair.
Last question. What do you do when you get sleepy?
Couple of things. On the bike.
It's a question that I have often got about touring from a whole bunch of people on various media. So it's worth answering. Do you get sleepy on a bike at all?
Yeah, I can't think of that.
Me either. Which means that if you're riding a bike and you're feeling sleepy, you're so exhausted. Or you're riding so far out of your actual comfort zone that that's what's causing the drowsiness to happen.
I don't do Red Bull,
Nothing.
whatever, none of that.
We're too old to be doing substances like that.
Chai is about it.
Yeah.
Or coffee.
Okay, in a car.
In a car, music or cracking the windows open. Often just getting fresh air helps. And if that doesn't help, take a stop. Just being able to stretch your legs, just sit for a bit outside the car, take some time off. That's about it.
I've never gotten sleepy in a car either.
Yeah?
Yeah, never. I don't understand how I achieved it, but I cannot remember the last time I felt sleepy on a bike or on a car at all. But I do know that I prep for my tours, even psychologically, quite a bit more than most people. I will think about it and I will rest a little bit more, drink a little bit more water. So I arrive prepared.
Oh, that was golden tip. In a car, it's so easy to overlook that. Every door pocket have a bottle of water. Because that's the one thing that'll keep you feeling fresh, that'll keep you going for longer. And you will not have to make stupid stops, right, to pick up water on the way. Why should you? If you're leaving from home, just pack in 4 bottles of water.
Yeah, and if you're putting a long day in the car and trying to get the miles done, like the high mile day, pack food if you can the previous night and take it with you into the car. Stuff that you can eat in the car without having to stop.
That's where I'd started this conversation.
Not the snack basket, the food.
Puri bhaji.
And if you want to stop and eat it, Like for example, let's say you're alone. I don't recommend that you drive like this. So if you're in that situation and you want to eat, pull over on the side of the road where there is no dhaba, etc., because the dhaba is the distraction there. You already have your food, you have the water in the car. So what you need to do is find a lonely place, relatively speaking, park, eat, and go. Because if you go to the dhaba, then you'll want to browse, the trinkets that are on sale that look so interesting in the dhaba, which makes no sense to anyone at all. That, and then you'll wait for the khana to come in. They say, oh, okay, so I have a sandwich. Maybe I want to have a dosa with that. And it sort of builds from there.
Okay, adverse weather conditions, snow.
Snow is like mud in terms of how you ride it. So if it's cold and you're feeling that and it's causing you to lose control over the motorcycle, maybe you want to stop or layer up further. But outside that, snow by itself is not a challenge, especially like not too much snow. If the motorcycle is digging through it, then it's a lot of work. Your distance ability will fall drastically.
In most cases, if you have a light snow on the ground, in a car, you really don't have much to worry about. If it's hard packed, the scary part is, of course, the black ice bits where you can't really see it. So in all those conditions, drive carefully. I think that is the simplest thing. When you're going touring, you don't need 10 different things to carry along with you. It's just being mindful that there are possible risks and to take care. That's about it. Like even now when we were driving, we could see the road, it's looking fine, but there was chance of black ice.
Yeah.
And we just went carefully until we could assess whether it was there or not.
Correct.
We did drive over patches which were snowed under.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
Correct. And if you drive enough cars, you'll notice that at about 4 degrees or below external temperature, you'll get a snowflake sign. And that basically is your warning saying below this temperature, things are a little bit more dicey than usual. If your motorcycle has an external temperature gauge readout, use the same preset. If it's 4 degrees or below, do not assume that there is grip and your tires are hot.
Tail bags or pizza boxes, yes or no?
Tail bags. Always tail bags in preference to everything else. They sit in a place where the weight disappears very naturally. They're relatively compact. You can carry tons of stuff if you get the right tail bags. But in preference to every other format of motorcycle luggage, I would take a tail bag.
Oh, really? And the pizza boxes?
I like the lockable pizza boxes, like the plastic ones, because they're not too heavy, but they're lockable and they integrate into the motorcycles quite neatly, which is why most of my motorcycles tend to have factory luggage when it's available. But the metal panniers, I think
I mean the pizza boxes.
I hate top boxes. I refuse to even discuss them. Okay, they're very convenient in the city and they're terrible on tour.
They'll create a yaw moment for your motorcycle when it gets windy.
It's just like asking to have a bad time. In the city, I understand it, okay? It's low speeds, so the aerodynamics are not a problem.
Akash has one.
Vichara. In the city, I can understand lockable helmet size storage. I understand it. It's narrow, so it doesn't get in your way when you're filtering through traffic. I get it. Out on the highway, top box. And when I see somebody with a top box on the highway, I have a moment where like, oh my God, you're ruining this for yourself.
Yeah.
But tail bags, best. Side panniers, very decent. That plus a small tank bag will actually make a huge dent in how you carry luggage.
Right. Easy to access.
Now increasingly prefer locking tank bags that clip into place rather than strap or magnet. SW Motorinc makes a great one. GV makes a almost as good one. There used to be connected ones, so you could have charging inside the tank bag. Forget all of that. Just the fact that it clips into place and clips off makes it so much more convenient.
In a car, you don't have to worry about any of this. You got a glove box, you got under seat storage, or a boot, right? Or door pockets.
50 minutes. We are 50 minutes in.
All right. So, which means it's
Okay. So let's sum this up. First, what we both basically said in multiple ways is that the preparation is the key to having a good tour. And preparation is you. Preparation is how you pack. Preparation is your motorcycle ready to tour? Does it have fresh fluids? All of that part of it. Including how planned you want to be is all part of the prep. I want to be planned. I want to know what hotel I'm going to today. And he's saying, no, sometimes I don't want to do that. I want to figure out at 2 p.m. where I'm going to stay tonight. Both plans have their own pros and cons and they both work.
It's mind state, right? So if you're going to go out, it's about what you want to do with your time.
Right. The next is the mind state, which is how you're going to drive or ride your car, which is to be in your comfort zone, be comfortable, be aware that you are being dehydrated every moment that passes and therefore you need to work on that. Every food stop is going to cost you lots of time. Work around that And if it's a relaxed day with a small distance, that's fine. And if it's a long day, then it's not okay. And work all of those things out. Emergencies are emergencies. You can only prep so much for them, and beyond that, there's not much you can do. So we're not, both of us
Remember
are not,
Murphy?
fans of tools and stuff. And we are quite happy to wait for an RSA truck to come, if that be the situation. Although
I feel we're jinxing ourselves now.
23 years on the road, and so far, nothing has happened of the sort.
Yeah.
Right? I know, I'll continue to prepare. That's all I can
Yeah.
do. After that, if RS has to be called, RS has to be called. I mean, what's the big deal? I do pay for this service. I might as well use it at some point.
Yeah.
Right? Content creation, we are not the expert. Please go ask whoever it is. Our content is in here. And if there was a USB port here, there'd be some very nice things to
Really
download.
think about it. If you see a great sunset, you want to just soak that in, not see it from behind a phone.
What's wrong with seeing that after you've rolled the GoPro for a time lapse?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting carried away again.
Okay. Packing. It's easy to pack in a lot into a car. And although I did say I will pack as much as I can, I didn't really mean that. Take what you need. It's easy to overpack, and especially with kids around, take the skateboard, cycle, God knows what not. Be realistic about it, because there are also hazards in the car. So you don't want too much stuff flying around the car unnecessarily. So yeah, and if you have to, strap it down.
We're going to wrap this up. It's one of the longest things I think we've done on the podcast so far.
I think we are stressing the timelines every time now. All right.
Yeah. What do you do on tour? We would really like to have a discussion on that. What are your insights about stuff that really worked for you, as well as stuff that didn't work for you? Anecdotes that raised the game for you, and anecdotes that you said that at the end you said, oh my God, I can't believe I did that to myself. All are welcome. Leave us a comment and let's have fun in the comments as well. Thank you so much. Disconnect.